out there, firefighters and they go there. It's right by the firehouse. I know. He's like, well, burning down. Every time he walks on it, he's like, there's nothing in this house. It's straight or square. It's a burning thing. I'm like, that's the reason I married you, is because I'm walking on it. Well, when we get the front windows on the lower part of the front, he's looking at chainsaws. It's crazy.
Hey, Ruby. Would you be so kind as to get the screen on? Thank you. Not before he made us go eat chicken. No, he didn't exactly. Yeah, he didn't exactly. No, he didn't exactly make us. We had a good time.
Last time I seen you had Ruby by one arm, you by the other. See how high you can raise y'all up.
Yeah. No, it was, I'm glad he asked. We had a good time. We were going to go get something to eat anyway, and I'm glad he said something. Except I live in the old time. I'm out of touch. I just commented sort of off the cuff to Stuart. I said, yeah, it's up on the hill. I was giving you the old location. I'm glad you didn't really listen. I mean, I didn't get all the way through because Ruby told me, she said, it hasn't been there for years. I said, oh, yeah. Yeah. You know where El Mazatlan is in Glasgow? Kentucky Fried Chicken used to be there.
I remember. I've been in there.
And that's where I was picturing, and I'm waving. Thank you, Ruby, getting it there.
Was it that long?
It's that empty for a while.
All right, it is 6 o'clock. It's good to have everyone here. Let's go ahead and get started. It's a little warm tonight, but not too bad in here. 192. 192. Is it for me, dear Savior, thy glory and thy rest? For me so weak and sinful, oh, shall I be so blessed? Oh, Savior, my Redeemer, what can I but adore and magnify and praise thee and love thee evermore? Is it for me thy welcome, thy gracious enter in? For me thy coming blessed, for me so full of sin. O Savior, my Redeemer, what can I but adore and magnify and praise thee and love thee evermore? O Savior, precious Savior, my heart is at thy feet. I bless thee and I love thee, and thee I long to meet. O Savior, my Redeemer, what can I but adore and magnify and praise thee and love thee evermore? I'll be with thee forever and never grieve thee more. Dear Savior, I must praise thee and love thee evermore. O Savior, my Redeemer, what can I but adore and magnify and praise thee and love thee forevermore. I meant to comment, Jerry's not here tonight. He has a school meeting tonight, a training session. Site-based council meeting, technically. Number 580. $580, and then we'll have Larry to lead us in prayer. This is my Father's world, unto my listening ears. All nature sings, and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's world. I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of sky and sea. His hand a wonder all. This is my Father's world. The birds their carols raise, the morning light, the lily white, declare their Maker's praise. This is my Father's world. He shines in all that's fair. In the rustling grass I hear him. He speaks to me everywhere. This is my Father's world. Oh, let me ne'er forget. Love seems oh so strong. God is the ruler, yeah. This is my Father's world. The battle is not done. Is the Suda shall be satisfied, and earth and heaven be one.
Holy Father, we're so thankful for this beautiful day that you've given us. We're so thankful, Father, at the closing of this day that we can assemble here to study your word, to learn more of your will concerning us, and hopefully be built up in your faith and in your love, to be better able to gladden teach those who are not in a safe relationship with you. We pray, Father, that we would be able to, because of the way we live and we left up our life before others, Father, bring others unto you. We pray that as we go through life, that we would never say or do anything that would cause others to doubt or others to stumble. Father, we pray that we can live closer to you, that we can bring others unto you because of the way that we live and live our lives. We also thank the Father for the freedom that we enjoy in this great country, that we're able to worship and serve you without fear of mankind. We also thank the Father that we can assemble here knowing that we will not be molested. We are so thankful, Father, for these great friends that we enjoy. We're so thankful, Father, for the Bible, your written word, and we pray as we study this evening that we can lighten the back of truths. We pray, Father, that we can study and learn what the will concerning us. And pray, Father, that you would be with us and give us the wisdom and understanding that we need to always be able to highly interpret your word. We pray, Father, that we would never, under any circumstances, try to change not one hour of the things you have written down for us. We pray, Father, that we would always stick strictly by your word and commands. And Father, we know that if we do that, we can have that home in heaven that you promised us. And we pray, Father, that each and every one that's assembled here this evening will someday have that home in heaven. We're so excited. So thankful, Father, for the good health that we enjoy. We know, Father, there are others who are not here because of illness. We pray, Father, that you be with them. We pray, Father, that you will continue to be with Alice and bless her and heal her. We pray, Father, that you will continue to be with Shirley and bless her and give her good days so she can be with us. We pray, Father, that you would be with Vicky, that would be your will, Father, that she would be able to be back to normal. We pray, Father, that you would be with those who have lost loved ones. We pray, Father, that you would be with those families, that you would comfort them, and you love them down in the mercy, Father, and comfort them so that you can. We pray, Father, that you would pray, Father, that you would forgive us of sin. We know that many times we do fall short of respecting others. We pray, Father, that you would forgive us of those sins that we committed. We pray, Father, that we can't grow strong and sin less in the future that we have in the past. Pray, Father, that you would be with all those who are outside the home of safety, that you would be with them, that they would see the need to come unto you before everlasting to them. Pray, Father, pray, Father, that you would be with us, give us our foot, and be alive. Father, give us a such our prayer.
Number 230. I've got a text from Jerry that he's listening. School, his meeting's not till 6:30. Larry, I failed to ask, how's your brother?
He's about the same.
About the same.
They're not unable to do any surgery up until he
Okay.
gets stronger.
Number 230. I want to be a worker for the Lord. I want to love and trust His holy word. I want to sing and pray and be busy every day in the vineyard of the Lord. I will work, I will pray in the vineyard of the Lord. I will work, I will pray, I will labor every day in the vineyard of the Lord. I want to be a worker every day. I want to lead the erring in the way that leads to heaven above, where all is peace and love in the kingdom of the Lord. I will work, I will pray in the vineyard of the Lord. I will work, I will pray, I will labor every day in the vineyard of the Lord. I want to be a worker strong and brave. I want to trust in Jesus' power to save. All who want to shall find a happy home in the kingdom of the Lord. I will work, I will pray in the vineyard of the Lord. I will work, I will pray, I will labor every day in the vineyard of the Lord. For our lesson this evening, let's sing number 263. It's a hot day and easy to become thirsty, and this song talks about thirsting in a desert, of course, spiritually. 263, then we'll have our Bible classes. In the desert of sorrow and sin, lo, I faint as I journey along, with the warfare without and within. See my strength, hope nearly gone. I thirst, let me drink of the life-giving stream, let me drink. 'Tis the rock cloud for me, 'tis the water of life. In my weakness I turn to the fount, from the rock that was smitten for me, and I drink and I joyfully count all my trials a blessing to me. I thirst, let me drink of the life-giving stream, let me drink. 'Tis the rock cleft for me, 'tis the water of life. Oh, O thou God of compassion, I pray. Let me ever abide in thy sight. Let me drink of the fount day by day, till I join thee in mansions of light. I thirst, let me drink of the life-giving stream, let me drink. 'Tis the rock cleft for me, 'tis the water of life. Let us have our classes.
Good evening.
You too. Okay, we're on Ezra 5 tonight. Get my lesson here.
Ezra chapter 5.
Go over these. All right, number 1, Mom.
Did the prophets take Adam, the prophet, and Zechariah, son of prophesied unto the Jews who were in Judah and Jerusalem, in the name of God of Israel, even unto thee.
I try to avoid too many proper names, but sometimes I can't help but get a few. Number 2, Andrew.
Verse 4. Then said we unto them, what are the nations of the men that make this building?
Okay, number 3, Shirley.
In verse 5, but the eye of their God was upon the elders of the Jews, that they could not cause them to cease till the matter came to Cyrus, and then they returned answer by letter concerning this matter.
Okay, number 4, Sharon.
Verse 7, I sent a letter to him in which was written thus, to Darius the king, all peace.
Okay, number 5, Chris.
Verse 9, then asked we those elders, and said unto them thus, who commanded you to build this house, and to make up these walls?
Okay, number 6, Mike.
Verse 11. And this they returned us answer saying, we are the servants of the God of heaven and earth. We build the house that was built these many years ago, which a great king of Israel built it and set up.
Okay, number 7, Stuart.
Would be verse 13. However, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Babylon, King Cyrus issued a decree to build this house of God.
Okay, number 8, Brianna.
And said unto him, keep these festivals, go carry them to the temple that is in Jerusalem, and let the house of God be built in his place.
Number 9, Larry.
Verse 16. Then came the same Jesh, but that Baylor, and laid the foundation of the house of God which is in Jerusalem, and since that time even until now hath it been building, and yet we did not finish.
Okay, and number 10, Adam.
Verse 17, now therefore, if it seem good to the king, let there be search made in the king's treasure house, to repair it out, whether it be so, that a decree was made of Cyrus the king to build the house of God at Jerusalem, and let the king send his presence to confirm this matter.
Okay, Ezra chapter 5. Now, from our lesson last week, well, even tonight, it is tonight, what 2 prophets could be read with this chapter? Haggai and Zechariah. Anybody look at them? glance at them. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't, because it wasn't part of the lesson, but we'll look at part of them here in a moment. Ezra 5. The chapter starts out, then the prophets, Haggai the prophet, and Zechariah the prophet, and Zechariah the son of Iddo, prophesied unto the Jews that were in Judah and Jerusalem in the name of the God of Israel, even unto them. Now, to see what they prophesied, you need to go to Haggai. I'm going to look at just a little bit of Haggai because I want you to see Haggai is only 2 chapters of what he said to them. They weren't building the house of God. The people had discouraged them, and they weren't building. And he said, you live in what kind of houses? Sealed houses. So Haggai, this is in the 2nd year of Darius the king, in the 1st day of the month, 6th month, 1st day of the month, that the Lord spoke to them, saying the people were saying the time has not come that the Lord's house should be built. He said, it is time. Is it time for you, O ye, to dwell in your sealed houses, and this house lie waste? And that they were saying, well, it's not time to get back to the Lord's house. But they took time and effort and money to fix up their own houses. But he said this was in vain. This is a verse I've often quoted here. This would be to do something definitely in vain. You have sown much, but bring in little. You eat, but you have not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. He clothe you, but there is none warm. And he that earneth wages to put it into a bag with holes. So they were sowing, eating, drinking, clothing, but they had nothing. Any money they had, they were putting into a bag with holes, meaning everything they were doing was for nothing, because they were doing it for themselves, not for the Lord. And you could go and, in the next verse, it said, consider your ways, go to the mountain, bring wood, build the house. And so he's told them till they did that the heaven over you has stayed from dew and the earth stayed from her fruit. And the Lord said he called for a drought upon the land. And so that's basically the book of, well, of course, we've got 2 chapters in Haggai. And then we get into Zechariah, which is a lot like, reminds me quite a bit of Daniel and Revelation, some of the imagery in it, where he sees the myrtle trees and the red horses standing, and the 2, what does he see? The 2 what? Well, the 2 candlesticks that had the oil in them, and so 2 olive trees, rather, one up on the right side of the bowl and the other up on the left. I said, to behold a candlestick of gold, 7 lamps. There's 1 candlestick, but 2 olive trees on it, probably representing some prophecy of the New Testament, the Old and New. I really think that Revelation, when it talks about unto the woman that was persecuted was given wings of 2 eagles, or the wings of a great eagle. He talks about there were 2 olive trees. He's probably talking about the Old and New Testament. And I think this is probably a prophecy concerning it. And of course, the New Testament was many centuries yet away. But we won't look at these in great detail now. I think sometime pretty soon, after we do Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther, we ought to consider looking at the minor prophets. It's been many years since we have studied them, and we need to learn again what they say. But here I'll just start the chapter over because we went to Haggai. Then the prophets, Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo, prophesied to the Jews that were in Judah and Jerusalem in the name of the God of Israel, even unto them. Then rose up Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel and Jeshua the son of Jozadak, and began to build the house of God, which is at Jerusalem, and with them were the prophets of God helping them. So it helped to look at Haggai and also really Zechariah, because after they came and said these things unto them, they started building. Haggai is very plain. You can see how Zechariah starts out with them. The Lord hath been sore displeased with your fathers. He says, turn unto me, and I'll turn unto you. I'm just giving at the beginning. Your fathers say, where are they? And the prophets, do they live forever? Talk about the former, unto whom the former prophets cried. The prophets don't live forever. But my words and my statutes, which I command my servants, did they not take hold of your fathers? And they returned and said, like as the Lord of hosts ought to do unto us according to our ways, he's dealt with us. I'm skipping a little bit. And Zechariah is a lot more detailed in its prophecy and speaking to them. But the fathers had said that turn from your evil ways. And your father said, where are they? And the prophets, do they live forever? I think that he was really saying that where are they now? The word's not coming to us, but the word's still being spoken, even though the prophets have passed. I think that's what he's saying there. So from the words of Haggai and Zerubbabel, or from Zechariah and Haggai, they got with it. They started building the house of God. And the prophets were helping them. So the prophets didn't just preach, you all get to work. They were helping them. We always want to be a worker for the Lord. We just sung that tonight. Any comments on this? So these two prophets got them going last week. I think it was Stuart that said that these served as a conscience, and what was the other word? Memory for them, to remind them of the things of God, and that they needed to get to work. You need to be reminded of things. How often have you had to say to a child, it may not be this, but wipe your feet? You don't say it once forever. When they're 7 and let it go again, never again. You probably have to repeat it over and over. Get up out of that bed. It's time for school. Have you ever, you didn't say, we got to the funeral today and I had gone in the restroom and came out and Ruby said, Sandy's here. I said, what time was the funeral? I thought I'd done missed it. Must have been earlier, because if she was there, it had to be long over. But I did ask her, I said, mean or honest? Which one is it? No, I'm kidding. I knew. And so, but I never even got to see her. Our paths didn't even cross at the funeral home. We passed around some way. But you've had to say to people, get up out of that bed, probably more than once. Or just even on the same day, come on, the supper's ready. You have to be reminding the people, get up and build the house of God. You're sitting there in your tile or sealed houses. Their house was in good shape. They were letting the house of God go. But by the prophets helping them, this at least kept the people from doing what? From complaining. Well, they're not doing anything. Everybody needs to work for the Lord. The prophets were the messengers, but they also worked. At the same time, came to them Tatnai, governor on this side of the river, it'd be on the west side, and Sheth-Arbaznai, and their companions said to them, who hath commanded you to build this house and to make up this wall? So I know they were building the house of God. They were building the temple. Now in Ezra, they're building the temple. What's built in Nehemiah? The walls of Jerusalem. They built it in 52 days. It's easy to remember because that's how many weeks there are in a year, and they built it in that number of days. I'm looking here to make sure. So the wall was finished in the 25th day of the month Elul in 52 days. So they built the walls of Jerusalem in 52 days, which was a pretty big task. But everybody was working. We'll learn a lot from Nehemiah. So they came at Tatnai and Sheth-Arbaznai, which probably it's easier when it's broken up here. And their companions said, who gave you command to build this house and make up this wall? Then said we, that would be Ezra included from the writing, then said we into this manner. What are the names of the men that make our, actually this is written more from the other's point. They also asked, what are the names of the men constructing this building? They were not only just curious, they were going to take what? What did you used to say in school? I know we did. When the teacher's gone, I'm going to take. Anybody ever say that? Yeah, it may be an old thing from the 60s and 70s. We're going to be taking names. And so, start out, Sandy. I'm kidding. But I'll put her last.
He just likes that name. You need to start saying
I'll try it. Candy. I can't do it. It comes still. I thought of you today in Glasgow. We were going to meet Stuart over at Kentucky Fried Chicken, and we had to be rerouted around some roads because they were doing construction. And there was a sandy drive in Glasgow. It was just there. I couldn't help it. Big green sign. But you're right. So they say, what are the names of the men that make this building? They want to know who's doing this. But the eyes of their God was upon the elders of the Jews, that they could not cause them to cease. That's such a powerful verse. If the Lord wants us to do and complete something, I don't care what men do, they can't stop it. The Lord's in control. They could not cause them to cease till the matter came to Darius or Darius, and then they returned answer by letter concerning this matter. So they didn't stop them till they could write Darius. He was the king in Babylon after Nebuchadnezzar, a couple of kings, I think Cyrus and Darius. And so they were writing to the king, they're building this wall up, or this was actually for the temple, the house of God. So they could not, because the eye of God was upon them, cause them to cease. But the eye of their God was upon the elders of the Jews, that they could not cause them to cease till the matter came to Darius, and then they returned answer by letter concerning this matter. The copy of the letter that Tatnai, governor on this side of the river, and Shethar-Bozenai and his companion, the Apharsachites, which were on this side of the river, sent unto Darius the king. So they were writing the king back in Babylon and reporting. They sent a letter to him wherein was written thus, unto Darius the king, all peace. Be it known unto the king. So this is those men that were trying to get the people of God to stop writing this letter. Be it known unto the king that we went into the province of Judea to the house of the great God, which is built with great stones, and timber is laid in the walls. And this work goeth on fast and prospereth in their hands. So we learned from this, they were building it fast and it was going good. Then asked we those elders and said unto them thus, who commanded you to build this house and to make up these walls? Now what answer do you hope? What do you think they were hoping to hear from Darius? Make them stop right now, tear it down, something like that. We asked their names also to certify them, that we might write the name of the men that were the chief of them. So they wanted the names. They didn't know the names of the men, and they wanted to write them down to report back to the king. And thus they returned us answer, saying, they're reporting this to the king, we are the servants of the God of heaven and earth, and build the house that was builded these many years ago, which a great king of Israel builded up and set up. Who built the temple, the first one? Solomon. So that's who they're talking about. David wanted to, and Nathan told him to do it. And God appeared to Nathan that night and said, he shall not build a house unto me, but his son shall. David had said that I dwell in a house made with cedars, but the house of God dwelleth in tents. And he wanted to build it, and Nathan thought it'd be fine, but God told him no. He wanted his son to build it. Because there were wars and things happening then. So they're still writing that they're rebuilding this house, which a great king of Israel built and set up. Probably hinting they'll become a great king and kingdom again. But after that, our fathers had provoked the God of heaven to wrath. He gave them into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, the Chaldean, who destroyed this house and carried the people away into Babylon. So they remind Darius that Nebuchadnezzar had destroyed this house, carried the people away. That's not all they carried away. What did he carry away? The treasures of the house of God. Broke the molten sea and other things. But in the first year of Cyrus, king of Babylon, the same king, Cyrus made a decree to build this house of God. So they're reporting back, the king that was before you, Cyrus, said for them to build it. And the vessels also of silver, of gold and silver, the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar took out of the temple that was in Babylon and brought them into the temple of, and the vessels also of gold and silver, the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar took out of the temple that was in Jerusalem and brought them into the temple of Babylon. These did Cyrus the king take out of the temple to Babylon, and they were delivered unto one whose name was Sheshbazzar, whom he had made governor. So they had come and taken these great vessels out and took them. This is those men writing Darius, reminding him a little bit of history of what happened. And said to them, take these vessels, go, and carry them into the temple that is in Jerusalem, and let the house of God be builded in its place. They reminded them, they're reminding Darius that this had been said to rebuild. Then came the same Sheshbazzar and laid the foundation of the house of God, which is in Jerusalem. And since that time, even till now, hath it been in building, and yet it is not finished. They're still building this, and it's not finished. Only got one more verse. Now, therefore, if it seemed good to the king, they're still writing the king, let there be search made in the king's treasure house, which is there at Babylon, whether it be so that a decree was made of Cyrus the king to build the house of God at Jerusalem, and let the king send his pleasure to us concerning this matter. I think what they're saying, they're writing back to Babylon and saying, did Cyrus actually say this, or are these men just saying it? We can't get them to stop. And they said that Cyrus said to build it. And so they want to find out. So next week, we're going to find out, it's a little bit longer chapter, that it was written there. Okay. So he went to looked in the house of the rolls where the treasures were laid up. I'm going ahead a little bit. And there was found at Achmetha in the palaces in the province of the Medes a roll, and therein was a record thus written. In the first year of Cyrus, and he did say, let the house be builded. So Cyrus had commanded. They went back and searched the records. And so, just so you'll know what they say, he sends back what? Let the work of this house of God alone.
Was Cyrus the one that was the king when Daniel and all of them were there or not?
Cyrus, it was Nebuchadnezzar first, then Belshazzar was for a while. He was the one that saw the handwriting on the wall. Then Darius, and then Cyrus came at the very end. Let me see who Cyrus is last mentioned in Daniel. All right, we know how long. Daniel continued even to the first year of King Cyrus. So Daniel was apparently gone. He's not mentioned anymore. In the third year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar. So Cyrus there was at least, I think, 4 kings. Daniel prospered in Darius. There was 4 kings that Daniel was under. Nebuchadnezzar, not Belshazzar, that's Daniel. Belshazzar, Darius, and then Cyrus. And then after that, who's going to be king? I think after all this was Ahasuerus, who's Artaxerxes, and who was his wife, at least one of his wives. Esther, that's right. Try and tie all this together.
Who was the king that went and said, Daniel, was your God able to deliver you last night?
That was Darius. From the lion's den?
Yes.
He couldn't sleep all night.
Right, because he had to do it because he told him to do it.
Right. It was under the Daniel, or under Darius, that they made it king. And he signed the right, but they tricked him and he was mad with himself, that he had done this. Because he made a decree that anybody that worshiped within 30 days, anybody did a petition for any god except Darius the king would be cast into a den of lions. And he signed it with a law of Medes and Persians, which could not be changed. So he had to throw him into the den of lions. But he said, O Daniel, can servant of the living God, is thy God whom thou servest continually able to deliver thee from the lions? And of course he did throw him in, and no music was brought to him that night, and he fasted and he rose up early, and he was taken up out of the lion's den safe. He said the Lord had sent his angel to close their mouth. And then of course he had the men who did this, their wives and their children, thrown into the lion's den, and we're told the lions had the mastery of them and break all their bones ere they came to the bottom.
So this is the same king we're reading about now.
Yes.
Okay, so did he make a decree that that Daniel's God was the God of all gods?
He did, yes. If he goes at the end here, if you look, it says in verse 26 of Daniel 6, This is Darius. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom, men tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God and steadfast forever. And you can see there, his kingdom. So they were writing the wrong person. They were trying to get Darius, make them stop building this house. And he had already come to know that God of heaven was the one true God. So he writes back, leave them alone. They didn't get the answer they wanted. All right. I really like the book of Daniel. It's so much like Revelation. I love what's that? It is. The very end of the book of Daniel. Daniel was a lot like us. He said, Lord, how long is it going to be until all these things happen? And the Lord basically told him what? Yeah. He says, go thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest. I love this. This is the last verse of Daniel. For thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of the days. So when the end of the days come, we'll be rest and we'll receive what's ours for the reward. All right, any questions or comments on this? So next week will be a little bit, these all tie together. This is happening. You assume Daniel's still living. Not everybody came back, of course. Some stayed. You know, just, I think out of jealousy, because they had been in this land, they were governors here, and they were afraid someone else was rising into power, and just to stay on top. That's a good question. What was their motive? Why were they stopping them? I think just jealous, afraid they would resume their former glory and they would lose their, as a matter of fact, they had said, was it last week or so, why should the king, be heard in this matter? And thought that he would not receive his money, and then they in turn theirs. It seems to be. So, and it's like people will try to discourage us. Ruby and I, she was reading online, in Kentucky they built a replica of Noah's Ark. It's huge, big old thing. You can put a lot of animals in. And there's a group that's totally against religion called the Freedom from Religion Foundation. They have written letters to 1,800 schools encouraging them, do not take your students to this. And so, and some schools have responded back, said, it's up to us what we do our field trips. And because they don't want, they said if you take a school group, it's set its church and state and all that. They'll do anything to try to encourage atheism, discourage the Lord. And it's pitiful. They have no clue of the faith that awaits them. I'm sure they've heard, but they don't believe. That Freedom from Religion Foundation, that's what they want, freedom from religion.
Well, someday they'll be sorry they didn't listen to it.
Well, no one in modern times or places can say they didn't have access to the Word of God. It is there.
They just don't make sense.
Well, they don't want to read it, and then they don't care. They're just not interested.
Personally, I think anybody says there's not a God, they're crazy. You can't live in this world and not know that there's something more powerful than anything here that takes care of us.
Well, what is Psalm, 53? It says it twice. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. He says, if you don't think there's a God, you're a fool. That's strong language. That's right. That's actually quoted twice. Psalm 53:1 and 14:1. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. And so that's actually quoted twice, 14:1 and 53:1. Any comments on this? I know some of this can run together, and we'll try to get together a good Bible timeline sometime. But this is material you probably hadn't studied in a while. Knock on there. I had knocked on theirs yet. I didn't forget, but I was waiting. It wasn't quite important. Not when they won't accept M&M, they've seen better days. What's that?
No, you go ahead. We're okay, guys.
Sometimes you just sense something.
We're conspiring.
Sandy and I go way back. Back in the 70s at least. Had to be in the 70s. She and I graduated together in 78 when people wore bell bottoms and tie-dye jeans. Everybody get a lesson? Ruby, we did Ezra 5, 1 through 17. Turn, if you will, as an invitation song, 686, Oh Why Not Tonight. In a moment, we'll sing the first verse of this song. In Ezra 5, the people had started building the house of God because the prophets Haggai and Zechariah prophesied to them, and you had to read the prophets to see what they said, but Haggai was very plain. He said, you're sitting in your sealed houses and you're wasting your time. You're sowing, eating, and drinking. You have nothing. You're putting your wages to a bag with holes. And Zechariah had many chapters to say unto them. And so they did get with it and got to working. The prophets were helping them. But even when they decided to work, Tatnai and others tried to discourage them. Said, who commands you to do this? What are your names? But it says here, the eye of their God was upon the elders of the Jews, that they could not cause them to cease. If we want to serve the Lord and do for the Lord, there's no one of this earth that can stop us. Oh, they could stop our lives, but they cannot stop us from obeying and serving the Lord. And that's a comforting thing, that no matter what groups do that are against the Lord, that are anti-religion, that absolutely deplore the teachings of the Bible, they cannot stop us from obeying. Really, when you think about it, there's only one being in the universe that can make us not obey the Lord. That's us. He's not going to do it. I'm sure it's within his power, but that's not his nature. He wants us to obey. So there's only one being that has ever lived and ever will live that can make us leave the Lord. That's us. That's a lot of power. It's frightening power. But they could not cause them to cease because the eye of God was upon them. There's an old song called "There's an All-Seeing Eye Watching You." It may have been an appropriate song, but I don't even know if it's in this book. It's an old song. There's an all-seeing eye. I don't see it in the book. I don't remember seeing it in here, but it is an old song. Ruby, I was going to say, see if it's in the blue book. That's what you get for being married 30 years. I was going to ask her to look in the blue book, and I looked, she already was doing it. And it is handy. Do you see it in the blue book? If it is, we might sing it. There's an all-seeing eye watching you. Don't see it in that book either. And so maybe we'll run, and I may be looking at the wrong title because it could be by the first word. So we'll just do, Oh, Why Not Tonight? But this is a great comfort. No one can cause us to cease the work of the Lord. Have you started the work of the Lord? Have you obeyed in baptism, repentance, your faith, your belief, confession of his name? Have you left the Lord? And only you can cause yourself to do that. But you can cause yourself to come back, and no one else can stop you because the eye of God is upon us. If you're here and need to respond, let's sing the first verse of 686 as we stand. Oh, do not let the word depart, and close thine eyes against the light. Poor sinner, harden not thy heart. Be saved, oh, tonight. Oh, why not not tonight. Oh, not tonight. Will thou be saved? Then why not tonight? Didn't find it, Ruby? I will look it up sometime online and maybe sing it. Turn, if you will, as a closing song. Let's do number 31. I think this is a fitting song. They were dismayed and discouraged at first, but don't be. God will take care of you. We'll sing this, and let's have Stuart to dismiss us in prayer. Don't forget our service is Sunday at 9. Just a little heads up, you might want to be here early. We're probably going to have 16 visitors for sure Sunday. A guy out of Skellytown, I think it was Texas, emailed me, texted me actually, and we actually called. Then we started texting each other that they are going to be passing through this weekend, and I'm looking here to see where he was from. I think that was it. Cisco, Texas is where he's preaches. And they're going to spend Saturday night in Cave City and wanted to worship here Sunday morning. They found us online. And I told him our Bible school, our classes start at 9. He said they'd be here by 9. There's 16 of them. So they probably will be here Sunday unless they have a change of plans. Is there anything else that needs to be announced? Of course, Chelsea's dad's funeral was today. Saw many of you there, and I know she was glad that everyone went. Keep Larry's brother in prayer. He's in a coma in Vanderbilt Hospital in Nashville following had a blowout on a cement truck he was driving, and really did a lot of damage, and they've had to induce a coma while he tries to heal. Is there anything else? All right, if there is nothing else, let's sing the first verse of 31 and think of this context of them trying to discourage them, but they couldn't be because God was watching them. Verse 31, then Stuart will dismiss us. Be not dismayed, whate'er betide, God will take care of you. Beneath his wings of love abide, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day, for all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you.
We bow and please. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for the opportunity to assemble and be encouraged and be built up to see you. Pray, Father, that you would see that we are working in your cause in this location and that we be not discouraged. Father, as we assemble, we're mindful of Larry's brother and the damage that's been done to his health. We pray that you would help the doctors and nurses that are taking care of him, that they might have quick minds and willing hands to do what they can to help him heal. We also pray for Chelsea's family in this time of bereavement, that you would help them to be healed in their minds as well, and that they might be comforted. We pray that you would be with each of us, Father, as we journey through this life. Help us to go forward with enthusiasm and confidence. Help our faith to be built up that we might do more for you in this world. It's in Christ's name that we pray. Amen.
How's everything going?
Pretty good.